Hello, everybody. Today we feel very down in the donut hole because we've been traveling through some time zones. We're very logy and tired. And I don't know, what else can we say? Another long wait and yet another airport.
Well, yesterday I was talking about how miraculous airports are. And I still feel that way. But I'll tell you what isn't miraculous. What's sort of the opposite of miraculous, which is quite diabolical? The middle seat, which I usually wind up sitting in the middle seat. It just works out that way. It works best for us in the long run. But then I reserve the right to complain about it as often as I possibly can afterwards, because it is never a good experience.
In exhaustive detail.
Well, you want to trade?
Sure, I keep offering
Sure,
that.
he keeps offering.
I keep offering that, yes I do.
Well, there's reasons why it won't work, let's put it that way. And so I'm not nice about it. I don't try to be nice about it. Now, in the overseas flight last night, that's over 6 hours, about 6.5 hour flight. And started out okay. The person, it was a 3-chair row. The person who was sitting on the other side of me, who was not Dave, very nice person, nice smile, well-dressed, well-kept, but a nervous sort of guy, medium-sized fellow. But like a lot of fellows, in order to be comfortable, they have to kind of crowd into space that does not belong to them. This guy did that almost always. This is my experience. And he claimed both armrests. So I only had the one armrest. The guy in front of us put a seat back early, so that further trapped me in that space. But the other guy on my left, he was nervous and was twitching his leg, with that nervous leg syndrome the whole trip. So I don't say anything about these things during the trip, because one never knows what will set people off, although he didn't come off that way at all. And so our flight last night was about 5:30. So according to us, it was a little after midnight when we landed. And I had no sleep during that period of time. My leg likes to cramp up when I'm in those twisted up positions. And when you have your underseat bag in front of you, see, remember, we only travel with an underseat bag and a carry-on. And that works for us usually pretty well. I'm not a big fan of lifting my carry-on up into the overheads, but I'll do it, and it only takes a second. And I'm pretty strong about that. But yesterday, they had to change our seats yet again, because the first change was we were not sitting together, and that must happen. The second change, they insisted upon, because the seats that they had assigned us on the second round were broken, they said. So they had 2 broken seats, and it was a very, very full airplane. So full that the carry-on that I had, they insisted that I check that bag for free, they said. Well, we long ago gave up on checked bags because it just adds extra miles to how much you have to walk and that sort of thing. So they checked my bag. They changed us into those other seats, which the seat assignment was fine. The guy sitting next to me was a nice person. But habits he's probably not even aware of. So we get out, then comes the trek to find our luggage. And this is a huge airport in France. And so we had to go up escalators, down escalators. Did you enjoy all the escalator rides?
Oh yeah, that was so fun, especially when you're just barely awake.
I know that's the time of night that I'm so dunced out, just generally. I mean, just after a normal day, I don't really plan anything strenuous for myself along the midnight hour because I'm just not up for it. But we did that, and we had to hunt for it. And they didn't, the staff on the airplane spoke into the, PA system about where the luggage could be found, but it was blurred, and they only said it once, and then that was it. So you're in kind of a stupor at that point, and I was kind of in not the best mood after, just being twisted up like that from the, middle seat woes. I do think, and I'll finish this topic, I do think that is not a unique experience to me. I think that anyone who is assigned a middle seat should be given one free overhead bag. No, or some other free perk.
Well, the international carriers don't charge for the overhead anyway. It's only the regional domestic ones.
Yeah, but
maybe they should make the seats cheaper or something.
How about they make them bigger? How about they stop treating customers like cattle? Now, I know profits are important, and I know it's expensive to operate, but that's just inhumane. It just is. So, yes, airports are amazing. The one I'm sitting in now, let's see, this is the third airport on this journey. This leg of the journey, I should say. This airport is much, much quieter, and we found a spot thanks to our cab driver who took us from the first big airport to this little bit smaller one regionally, and she told us right where to go so that we could kind of, just be quiet for a little while and go to sleep. So that was good.
A nice view of the planes out there and all the hubbub.
It is nice, and the sun is coming through the window, which makes you feel better just generally. It kind of perks you up a little bit. But I did. We came here. I put my luggage flat, put my feet on it, kind of curled up a little bit in this. It's a straight chair, but they're not uncomfortable. And I fell asleep for a long time, which made me feel better. You feel a little vulnerable doing that, a little silly. But airports, everybody understands.
Yeah, but you have the gift of being able to sleep in literally any position. I really can't sleep but sitting up.
I know. I really do. It's called a pure conscience. That's why I sleep
No, it's
so well.
missing. There's a difference.
It's not missing. Anyway, I did. I fell asleep for a good while, and I feel much better. Then after that, we had the breakfast that they gave us on the plane. I just wasn't interested in that at that moment. It consisted of a nice, sturdy white roll, and you had your choice to put in there cheese or jelly and butter. They had little cups of orange juice, and we had a cup of tea on the side. What else was in there? Oh, and yogurt. A nice little cup of yogurt. I ate the yogurt, but we saved the rest, and then when we woke up from our naplet, we ate.
Yeah, we just sort of had our breakfast a little later. Part of it on the plane, and then the other part when we were off.
Yeah, airport food is expensive, and so we thought, we're going to be around here. Our flight down to the south doesn't happen until, 8 o'clock tonight. So we have a lot of time. This whole day is killed in the airport. And while I like exploring, when I'm in that state, when I'm that tired and kind of ornery, it's best for me just to find a good place to sleep and do that instead. Plus the temptations in the airport. At this point, they have a lot of duty-free shops, but now I'm not traveling internationally anymore. So now that I'm here, and my next leg of the flight, I'm not leaving the country, so I wouldn't get the duty-free options. So you have to show boarding passes to be able to do that. And I was kind of interested to see if there is, a marked difference in the pricing already. What do you think?
It's way too soon to tell. We'll have to report on that later, I think. But I think My general impression is it's kind of the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Reasonable for the most part.
Yeah. But I also wanted to see how many American products were on the shelves in the duty-free shops here, whether that would be incentive to have more American goods there, or whether everybody is just so disgusted with our conduct that they would pull them all together, because that is happening in some markets. That is happening definitely in Canada, where they're just pulling American brands and saying, if you're going to act like that, we're not going to promote your products or present your products. So, and I don't blame them for that, because it seems like that's fair. It sends a message, does it not? So.
Yeah, definitely. I would think over some time that's probably going to get more and more apparent.
Yeah, I think so too, although I understand some deals are being struck. But we'll see how that all goes. You have to try to be positive about things. I'm more of a wait-and-see gal, because one of my concerns with our domestic policies at this point and our international trade strategies, I just think that there's been so much backtracking and mind changing and miscommunication and all of that there seems to be a deliberate cloud of confusion. It's either a deliberate cloud of confusion or massive incompetence at this point. And I want everything to work out okay. I want to give our administration a chance to prove themselves. But what I can't deal with is that, because I can't make up my mind what to think under those circumstances. And so if it is deliberate, this cloud of confusion, then that suggests that there's some ulterior motive, and that does not give anybody a peaceful, easy feeling. And if it's not deliberate, then it means that we've got a lot of rookies at the helm, and that a good share of this administration's tenure is going to be characterized by backtracking and mind-changing and all the other things that don't give people peace. I can't make decisions about anything, about any major purchases or, things that we would like to do. I can't really make decisions about that until I understand better what's happening for real, and what the status of things is going to be for the long haul.
Yeah, I think it might be interesting on this trip to get some perspective of the people that live here about such things. But in general, they just sort of eye roll stuff, I think, and say, yeah, whatever. Well, I'm going to do my normal thing and not dwell on, the news. They don't do as much news as we do. I think we're probably the country that has the most news all the time and tries to make it seem very urgent and all that sort of thing. But maybe, while we're here, we'll get a few comments, maybe, or some perspective.
On that topic of the news and journalists, I understand the new Pope, Leo the 14th, called together the news crews, all the journalists who have been covering the conclave and the previous Pope's passing, and he talked to all of them about how they present the news, that they need to be sensitive to the fact that they are creating a lot of stress and worry for people. And he took that on within the very first days of his
day one.
Close to.
And we'll see how he's doing on the first 100 days.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was a good place to start,
Yeah.
Be conscious of what you say.
Well, that's true. That is true.
Yeah, I think that was a brilliant move. They were there. They were handy. It was a way to speak to them directly, face to face, and I think that's always a plus with gaining people's perspective on things and concurrence, because we can all do our jobs better. And I do think that the press fomenting a lot of worry and concern and, like you call it, a sense of urgency that really doesn't need to be there, you know. It turns heads and it sells papers and it gets eyeballs on media, but that's because that's a profit motive. That's not because it's something that the public really needs to consider in that way. So we'll see how that goes as well. I picked up a magazine. I haven't read a new magazine, in a long time, because I'm just too busy. But I picked up one free in the airport, the big airport. And actually I picked up two. They were right there. They're always there. Whenever you come to the big airport, there's a ton of free things, newspapers, magazines, that kind of thing. This time I just saw the two magazines, and they're beautiful. They're slick magazines. The first one I won't name, because anytime we drop a name, we get kind of flagged for copyright or something like that. So anyway, the magazine it's a fashion magazine, and I will tie this fashion magazine to our episode about vampires, and we talked a lot about Dracula. And it has
a vampire magazine?
No, but there was a whole piece in there about Dracula's castle, and it has some really enigmatic, very moody pictures.
Maybe we'll go there for Freaky Friday.
I don't think so. I think we'll look at the pictures.
I wanted to surprise you.
Oh, you know what? You doing stuff like that is not a surprise to me, because I think the man has gone out of his way to try to push me out of my comfort zone. And I worry sometimes, I worry sometimes that he's trying to push me off a ledge or the third floor, or the skinny steps of some pyramid or something. So anyway, but that was funny. I thought, I haven't thought about Dracula in a long time until last week. And I was laughing about this because I thought, how funny is that was in the fashion magazine of all places. And
what was fashionable about that?
The mood, because certainly Gothic sensibilities have influenced an awful lot of fashions. And I can't say that I wear a lot of that, but I like how it looks on the people that choose to present themselves that way.
So was there a lot of photos of beautiful women in Gothic clothes?
No, more carved doorways. One of them really struck me. This was in what we know of as Dracula's castle. A beautiful carved doorway, and it had brass handles on the door. One of them was a knob with a lock. The other one was like one of those pull type, like the bar type door pulls. And what it looked to me like you closed the bar type one first, then you closed and locked the knob door. And the action made the bar type door unopenable, when you lock the other door, because of the way the door is aligned. Anyway, the part that struck me just in that picture, the door was completely carved in relief from top to bottom, and it had all kinds of designs on it. I have the magazine on my lap, so I'm going to look at the picture, because then I can describe it better to you. Very, very cool picture. Anyway, while I'm looking for it, the bar handle on there, someone had taken a piece of velvet and sewed it over that bar handle. And I thought, I'll bet on a cold morning that was just unbearable to touch. And so somebody fixed that. The little knob is not that way. Okay, I have it. Picture this. The doors are shaped kind of like church windows, where they arch up a little bit, but they arch up in two sections to the peak. They're carved all over with acanthus leaves and other vines, every bit of it. And then what I'm looking at now are three panels. The bottom, longest rectangular panel in the center has a planter, and it looks like it's maybe a grapevine or some kind of tree type fruit producing plant in that panel, and also carved deeply in relief. Very old. The panel above that, which is the same size as the bottom panel, is an angel carrying what looks like a scythe, like you would cut down grass, and a scroll. So either a sword or a scythe, I can't tell because the picture is small. But in one hand, a scroll unrolled, and the other one, a scythe or a sword or some cutting instrument. And the angel itself is full body, not just a head or anything like that. Then there's a square. So 2 rectangular panels, a bottom, a middle, and then up the top is a square one. And it's one of those sun-moon discs. So there's a quarter moon in there, or half moon like, more of a quarter moon because it's more crescent shaped, and with rays that finish out the rest to be like a solar disk. That panel is also, the background on that is also highly carved vine leaves and acanthus leaves, or what I would call acanthus leaves. Same on the other side. They have the top panel is it's the face of a man, maybe? Oh my. A man, or it could even be the devil. It's just a face in a solar disk. The next panel below is an angel, also carrying an unrolled scroll in one hand and some kind of a blade in the second. And then the bottom panel, once again, is another vase with a vining tree in it. The light and shadows of the pictures in the Dracula's castle are amazing. Just amazing. The limestone around those doors I've described to you is also carved with curlicues and very, very much vining. But it's lovely, absolutely lovely. And there's some inscription up above, but that's where the edge of the paper is, so I really can't read.
Well, I never heard that Dracula was such an artist.
No, it wasn't Dracula, I don't believe. In those days, artisans were hired. This picture of Dracula's castle is against kind of a cold sky, a winter sky. It's kind of a blue-gray, lots of clouds, and snow on the ground in the foreground of the castle itself. And it sits on a rise, and it's got big cobbles. There it is. It has the crenellations, I'll call them, up at the top. They look more like tongues of flame side by side on the very, very top of the tower. And then there's a lightning rod up there. It's just beautiful.
Oh, it's the angels again.
Then there's other pictures of the area, the Carpathian Mountains. And again, this photo shoot happened in the winter. So everything has a bleakness about it that suits the stories, Bram Stoker's stories. And I have to appreciate all of this. But I thought it was funny that it was in the fashion magazine. The rest of the fashion magazine has all kinds of stuff you can buy. But it also focuses on travel. And so they were asking a lot of these fashionistas, what are some things that you always take with you, or how do you personally travel? What kinds of things are in your wardrobe? And a lot of people say that they've developed like a capsule wardrobe. And by that I mean a set of clothes that work well together that you can mix and match to extend the life of your appearance. You know what I mean? Shirts that can be worn with other things that kind of a little bit change the look. I'm big on there was a time when embroidered jeans and jeans with sequins and that sort of thing were a big deal. And those I would never take traveling. As much as, they can be fun to wear and they can be dressed up or down to go out, I don't take those on a trip. Because once you wear those, if it's a floral, colorful embroidery or, I'm not big on sequins because they like to come off and, get lost, and I would feel compelled to chase it down and maybe see if I could repair whatever it was, because that's just me. So I leave those home. But also the real reason I leave all of those embroidery things home is because if you wear a pair of plain jeans, and I suggest to people you just bring one pair of jeans and you wear them the day you're traveling. If you wear them again, no one knows whether it's the same ones or not, so you can be wearing the same pair of jeans for a lot of days, and jeans are meant to be worn that way and actually get better for having been worn that way. And so it's not as clear to people whether that's a second pair of similar looking jeans, because nobody really thinks about it that much. They only will recognize it if you're wearing a pair of jeans again and again and again that are highly embroidered and very individual. So go for nondescript jeans and you'll get a lot more life out of them on a trip, and that will allow you to carry less in your luggage. So that's
I don't ever want to carry jeans in your luggage. It increases the weight.
It does. So wear
exponentially.
Wear those.
And so no designer jeans like there was the Ridge way back
jeans.
in the
fancy up
70s and 80s, I guess it was.
Yeah. Well, no, even more recently than that. But so I say, if you're going to have something fancy, lightweight, fancy tops, that's fine because they don't take up a lot of weight and you can fit more of them in there. But 2 pairs of jeans, max. If it's hot weather out, I steer clear of the jeans and choose instead leather or pants that are made out of like a much lighter bottom weight, sheeting weight pants.
I haven't used the full heavy jeans in forever for that reason. They're just bulky, they're heavy.
They take a long time to dry.
Lightweight, breathable stuff for me, and then layers.
Yes. And also remember, the jeans take a long time to dry. So if you do wind up popping into a laundromat or something, you're going to be waiting a lot longer to finish, which nobody wants to hang around a laundromat on their excursions.
Exactly. So. The ones that I travel with will dry in about 20 minutes outside if it's got even a little bit of breeze and some sun.
Yeah. We that's what we often do because we often camp. So we try to get clothing and towels that dry pretty quickly. So I hardly ever opt for the really, really heavy towels. Even at home I don't, because it just takes unnecessarily long. A lighter duty towel is a lot friendlier to the environment, dries quicker, and you can maybe get 1 or 2 more uses out of it if you hang it right up after you're done with it, Especially traveling, that's important. We were traveling with camping towels, which are more of a chamois kind of weight. And on a lot of our trips, we carried those. I stopped doing that because even though they dry very, very rapidly, I'm too strict now about the contents of my bag, what I actually take. And so those, we just leave those home. And because we stay in the same place a lot, we've just left a bag there. And that includes towels that are fairly quick to dry. And so that helps us out too. So those are things that we think are important. Also, always a long sleeve shirt, because we walk a lot and we layer. So in the morning you leave the house to go on one of your adventures, and it is chilly, a little misty, a little bit chilly. We go early to catch a bus, and the bus is, over 3 miles away, up a mountain. So we leave early so we don't have to run, And we wear long-sleeved, almost like a business shirt, button-down front shirt, because they're easy to take off. Then you can tie them around your waist when you don't want them. Frankly, though, where we are, especially during the summer months, you want them as a shield against sunburn. So bring at least one. I have one that I usually bring. I didn't this time because I want to try something different. I have one that looks like, it's a white background and looks like newsprint. And I like that shirt a lot to travel with because the newsprint design on it, black and white, it goes with any other color that I happen to be wearing. And it's like camouflage in a way, that little stains, little spills, stuff like that don't show with something like that. This trip, I'm trying just a plain white shirt that looks like a man's white business shirt, really.
So you're going a little Martha Stewart there?
Maybe, but she's got it right, because the flexibility of something like that. It's a super lightweight jacket. It's sun shield. They look crisp enough, and I like ones with just a hint of polyester. I like the cottony ones because they're cooler, but I like a hint of polyester in them, just a little, so that they don't get quite as wrinkly. Now the linen ones, I love those. They breathe beautifully. They feel elegant against the skin. But really, if I've taken them on a day trip and wound up tying them around my waist at some point during the day, they do not look lovely in the late afternoon because I've wadded them up and tied them around my waist and beat up on them pretty badly, and it shows. And then really the only way you can bring a linen shirt back to looking somewhat tidy is to wash it and hang it. And if that happens, if you do it, you can do that in a hotel room with a piece of linen clothing. But remember, you have to kind of pull it and stretch it. Pull the wrinkles out when it's wet. Stretch it in both directions, vertically as well as horizontally, along the front button placket, and do the sleeves as well. So down, the vertical direction and then the horizontal direction. You can even kind of make a finger crease down the sleeve if you want to. Not that it's going to come out perfect. It's not. It's not going to look like you put an iron on it. But that's part of the beauty of natural linen, So that looks very, very nice, and it's so breathable. It's very comfortable to wear. So that maybe have a colorful linen shirt, and then some shirt in a print, or this time, like I say, I'm taking just a plain white one because I want to see with a little bit of lemon juice or peroxide or something like that. If there are little bitty spills on it, it's probably a bad choice because we drink rather frequent glasses of red wine, and sometimes bad things happen to good people. So maybe the white shirt isn't the best, but, just a little spritz of peroxide or something like that.
This little lesson there is just buy wine-colored shirts.
Well said. Well said. I think we did, didn't we, last year? Buy a wine-colored shirt?
I think so, yeah. I might have it with me, actually.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Good. Good choice. Good choice. So stick with basics. Don't go too outlandish. And above all, absolutely above all, make sure that your footwear is for comfort and durability, not for fashion. If you happen to find that wonderful shoe that crosses over, that is both fashionable and comfortable and durable, buy it in duplicate or triplicate, because that is, like, for me, a holy grail. I've literally worn shoes right out where the sole just comes off of them, because if you're walking on great distances all day long on hot pavements, there's a lot of shoes that just can't hold up. And I'm not talking about cheap shoes or, no-name brands. I'm talking about brand-name shoes can't take up that punishment to a high degree. So some of the ones, I try to have a pair of shoes that'll go nicely with the skirt because we get invited to events and, they have the little town things where you're walking but not the great distances. And so sometimes I'll wear those, but because we have a lot of mountain climbing, for me, it's better for me to just wear like a trainer shoe, something like that. And then when I get down to where the party is, just quick take a second, throw the trainers in a little backpack, and slip on the skirt shoes, so a ballet flat, that kind of a thing. I like those. They're still comfortable, but they look very nice. They look more like you've dressed up for a party. So that's what I carry. And the trainers these days are a lot lighter. I'm sure there's some that, for certain purposes, that are still very heavy, but that's not, that's not the common thing anymore. The rest of this magazine that I was talking about, the word is simple. Keep it simple, elegant, straightforward, not gimmicky. I mean, we see the runway things where they're dressed up in strips of latex.
Really? I'm looking at the window here. I don't see that.
Oh, I don't mean plain runway.
Oh.
No. See, but I don't blame you for thinking that. No, I'm talking about the fashion runways here in France. And, so, you see these crazy things where they've got swoopy things up over their head, and you think to yourself, who wears that? What kind of a party would you wear that to? Except maybe the Met Gala or, something like that. But they can't be selling many of those, right? I'm sure they make their money because those things are expensive. They're more art. They're not functional fashion. But clothes that make people feel comfortable, they seem to be in vogue. Jeans, lots and lots of jeans. And I think bell bottoms are back, judging by this book. Sequins. The particular thing that I'm looking at has lots of crystals and stuff, but it has them arranged in what would be a cutout, but because they're sewn to another piece, it winds up being like I should say a donut hole. And I'm not as keen on that. It looks like tears. It kind of has the same vibe as ripped jeans, and I'm not sure that they're as important as they were there for a while. Menswear fashion for women, it looks good on real skinny types, I think. What else? Lots of boxy jackets, and I like the look of that because they're just comfortable. And lots of flared leg pants. I think they're too long because I think after you've worn them once, they're dragging in the dirt. I don't like that. I prefer the ones that are cut a little bit above the foot, especially for travel because you're going up and down stairs, possibly airplane, the staircase ones where you have to go out on the tarmac and climb. And I think it's better for everybody if the length of pants are above the shoe if you're doing serious travel. And in a lot of ancient sites, the cobbles are uneven, and there's little drainage things sticking out, and it's just better if you keep your profile as under control as you can. The pants that are gathered at the bottom, if you like a voluminous cut, it's better if you can find something that's a little bit tapered then, like almost like a sweat pant cut where they're elasticized at the bottom so they stay up above the shoe. And I mean, that's just safety. Is it quite as fashionable as the voluminous cut legs? Not quite. It just isn't. But you're not on the runway, are you?
Yeah, we kind of are. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the different runway again.
Oh, my goodness. We just can't break you of the habit.
I'm tired.
I am, too. Anyway.
Nice.
It is nice. And like I said, I enjoy thumbing through these magazines. They're free. What I do is I take them with me for the duration of the trip. And then if I see anything in there that I just particularly love or that's kind of inspirational, I'll tear those pictures out because no way can I accommodate the weight of one or two of these magazines or other things. In the grocery stores, I pick up the recipe cards because we do mostly we cook. Maybe once a week we go out, or maybe we're more apt to go out for brunch or lunch, something like that, less for dinner, mostly because we have to get back to where we stay before dark. I will say, and then I'll close off talking about this magazine. There is a picture of a chair in here. Picture a living room easy chair, kind of a what they call a club-shaped chair. However, this one looks like it's made out of bread. It looks like it's made out of...
It's a loaf of bread.
No, it's not loaf-shaped. It's club-shaped. It looks like it's a series of rolls,
Maybe that's what it is.
I'll probably bring this picture home. And maybe I'll even frame it because it's it's very captivating, These are things, I will say, when we talk about travel. These are inspirations. I would not have seen this magazine where I live. There's lots of little things in here that I think are something I'd like to try to come up with my own version of. That's part of what I find pleasurable about going to new places is, getting inspiration. One time I came back from France here with these clips. They were like butterflies. And they were metallic, not expensive. I think we paid, maybe €5 per butterfly, which is marginal for me for what they are. But they had a purpose. These clips, the hair claws that you put in women's hair. It was on that idea, and what it was meant for was those voile curtains. The real sheer curtains. You would use these little butterfly clips, and the wings moved. At the slightest little breeze, the wings moved. And you could use those to pull those real lightweight sheer curtains off to the side and clip them a little bit. So if you wanted just a little more air coming through, or you wanted to be able to watch for a visitor coming or something like that, then these little clips did that. And they were so pretty on the curtains. So I had a couple of those. I think my kids took them, and my kids disappeared them, the girls, and I don't know. For all I know, they still have them, but they didn't have the same significance for the girls as they did for me. But that was very nice.
Well, we should probably think about seeing what sort of variation on security they have, on getting behind security here.
Yeah.
And I think doing a podcast is not a sufficient excuse to explain your late arrival through security.
No, I think not to. So we will say goodbye. And we will say that no matter how tired or weary or even ornery you feel, if you take just a couple of seconds and you look around and you say, okay, my blessings are here, let me find them. And you just focus on that for a minute or two, you will find them. And it will make you feel better in the moment. And I know it helped me finding a chair and a quiet place to just kind of sit down and sleep. That was a magnificent blessing in my day. Finding this magazine that, has just given me something else to focus on, despite being tired and having still a lot of arduous travel ahead of us today. So, anyway, have a great day. And I hope you're enjoying our travelogue here.
All right. See you on the next leg.
Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. We're trying our best to keep up our schedule. Sometimes it's really just impossible to get it uploaded and processed and all of that. But we'll get as close to the schedule as we possibly can. So thanks, everybody. We appreciate it.
Okay. See you soon. Bye.